In April this year, my wife, son and I moved back to Port Sunlight, a little cottage, where we watched our son grow up. 83 people were made homeless because of the blast which happened 2 years ago. It was an awful event, as we know, but I want to briefly go through a few things. So, for example, hundreds of houses were damaged, businesses destroyed. On the night of the explosion, the emergency response did all they can to make us safe. But we, the community, we feel that progression, things that need to happen, is painfully slow for the people and for our place. And every day we wake up, and that blast site is a reminder of that horrific night. We all know through the media and the press, we've seen images of the Port Sunlight and New Ferry explosion. We're aware of that, but we have to agree, hand on our hearts, that this explosion was huge, heard for miles. It was a major incident. And that leads me on to the question to Councillor Pat Hackett, who was then the mayor. We're all familiar with, or some of us are familiar with, a terminology I'm going to use, and it's major incident. This was disgraceful, what happened to us. So many people's lives turned upside down. The debt we have accumulated as a community is terrible. Physically, mentally, we have suffered, including my own family. And here's the question. On the night of the explosion, why was the terminology major incident not declared? And that leads me on to this one. There's something called the Strategic Gold Command. Why did they not meet to coordinate better response and recovery away from the emergency operations at the scene? And if, God forbid, this ever happens again, what have we learned? And finally, I just want to say, remember, we are human beings. We have suffered. We need an apology. We need an answer. Thank you very much.
I think the people of New Ferry are an example to us all. They have experienced, as we know, a terrible hardship. They've had their homes, their businesses, and the way of life ripped from underneath them through an act which was completely beyond, of course, their control. Their response has been to come even closer together as a community. They've shown a commitment to their community and a resilience which is nothing short of astounding, should I say. It is inspiring, and they should be proud of everything they have achieved together in light of this tragedy. I want to talk briefly, Mr. Mayor, about the Council's response to this tragedy and what we plan to do next. But first, I want to make a commitment tonight to Mr. Power and to every resident of New Ferry and to all councillors here tonight. Under our collective leadership, New Ferry will not be left behind. I'm aware there are different accounts of what has been done to support the victims of that terrible night. But first I want to make but there are difference of opinions about what could have been done better, as Mr. Power has outlined. and what should have happened more quickly. I don't want to debate those issues or make judgments on them without having the full facts before me. I know the member for Bromberry, Councillor Joe Bird, has called for a scrutiny review of the new ferry explosion, a review which would examine in detail every action which was taken or not taken in order to learn the lessons for how we help people if, God forbid, we're ever facing a situation like that again. I support that call, Mr Mayor, for a full review. I've asked officers to begin producing a detailed report to help members fully evaluate what happened so we can come to a more informed opinion in this chamber. I do not feel it would be right for me, Mr Mayor, to get into any further detail on the various points Mr Power, has raised tonight without having the benefit, of course, of those facts. What I will say to Mr Power and to everyone in New Ferry, Mr Mayor, is that I'm here to listen to you. I want to understand, what you went through, and I want to help. Mr Mayor, the council has a budget from the previous cabinet of £200,000 set aside to support the victims of this terrible tragedy and that terrible night. We, as a cabinet, have already met with local people to understand how best to spend that money. And at the next meeting of the cabinet at the end of this month, we'll make the decision and begin to allocate the funding. It won't, of course, replace everything which was lost. It will not remove the terrible memories and trauma that they went through and that they've suffered, but I hope it helps in some way. The council has spent, Mr Mayor, almost £500,000 on clearance and recovery at the site and 1.3 million in acquisitions and planning for the regeneration of the area. I'm also delighted to say that finally we started to make headway in securing actual government help and support to help transform the town. Members will have seen the news that we were successfully shortlisted for a future high street fund, and we've secured £150,000 to put together the business cases for that. It's no mean feat, that, and I have congratulated the officers who put that bid together, because we were the only two in the city region who were actually shortlisted for this, and the only area in the country that had 2 bids shortlisted, and that's for New Ferry and Birkenhead. Combined with support from the Liverpool City Region Metro Mayor Steve Rotherham, this means we will now, hopefully at long last, have the resources before us to truly invest in the town and restore it to the thriving community hub it once was. Mr Power, I want to thank you finally for your question tonight. I want to thank you for bringing these issues to our attention and for never stopping fighting for your community. I am, as I've said before, and I keep saying it because it's only after 6 weeks, I am the new leader of the council, and I promise you we will do everything we possibly can to help you and every one of your fellow residents.